I hate naps. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but hear me out. I have my reasons. Because when I do nap, I end up oversleeping for like 4 hours. And then when it's time to actually go to bed, I can't fall asleep. And it's an awful paradox because sometimes after a long, overloading, overwhelming day, the only thing I want is a nap. It's an awful cycle to be in. And stuff gets overloaded all the time, right? And it has to be reset. Like technology, for instance. You do the classic trick, right? You turn it off and then you turn it back on again. And if that doesn't work, you just have to reset the entire thing. People can get overloaded too. We like to go, go, go. We live a very fast-paced life and we barely have room in our schedules to breathe. And when we finally have a moment to catch our breath and take a break, we end up maybe scrolling through Instagram for a little longer than we intended, or flipping through every social media platform that we have, maybe binge watching TV for a little bit too long. And then we call that a break. But in the end, we really feel worse than before the break. We actually feel more icky and more tired. And honestly, it's just all exhausting. And this cycle just keeps repeating itself over and over, day after day. But what if I told you you can have real rest? God designed a real rest called the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is a type of rest that leaves us feeling more complete and whole and closer to God. In Hebrews 4, 9 through 11, it says, "There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter into this kind of rest, so that no one will perish by following the example of disobedience." If the goal of the Sabbath is to make us feel more whole and complete and closer to God, what are things that help us achieve this goal? Well, the Sabbath is all about doing what you love and doing what you love with God. And you can ask yourself, you can put your rest to the test by asking, is this relaxing? Is it really restful? Is this recharging? Am I doing it with God? And there was a guy in the Old Testament named Elijah, and he had to learn about Sabbath the hard way. Elijah was a hardworking guy who did crazy awesome things for the Lord. He defeated a false god named Baal in a duel, and then an evil queen named Jezebel got really mad at him, and she was hunting him down. So Elijah spent a lot of time running away from Queen Jezebel. And our story picks up after a long day of running in 1 Kings 19, where it says that Elijah came to a lone broom bush and collapsed in the shade, wanting in the worst way to just be done with it all, to just die. Enough of this, God. Take my life. Let me join my ancestors in the grave. Exhausted, he fell asleep under the lone broom bush. Suddenly, an angel shook him awake and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around him, and to his surprise, right next to his head was a loaf of bread on some coals and a jug of water. He ate his meal and then went back to sleep. The angel of God came back, shook him awake again, and said, "Get up and eat. You have a long journey ahead of you." He got up, ate and drank his fill, and set out. Nourished by that meal, he walked 40 days and nights to the mountain of God, to Horeb. And when he got there, he crawled into a cave and fell asleep. I heard a person once tell me that sometimes the most holy thing you could do is take a nap and eat a snack. And that's exactly what Elijah did. And the angel from God said to him, "Get up, Elijah, eat some food, you're hangry, and then maybe go take another nap." And I love this story because it shows us how rest is necessary. Elijah tried to sprint, figuratively and literally, and he ended up crashing. So how did God help him solve this? Well, God told him to stop, pause, rest, connect with God, and then and only then get back to work. It was when he rested with the kind of rest that leaves us feeling whole and complete and closer to God, that God was able to do his best work through Elijah. After Elijah had Sabbath, rested properly, God went on to speak to Elijah, use him to help the people of Israel, and even defeat the evil Queen Jezebel. God gives us that same rest that he gave Elijah. God welcomes us when we feel exhausted and tired and overwhelmed, and he offers us a rest called the Sabbath that leaves us feeling more complete and whole and closer to him. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Life is not a sprint. It's a marathon. And in a marathon, you have to pace yourself. You can't just run, and then crash, because that's not how a marathon works at all. In a marathon, it's all about the long haul. And the Sabbath is what helps us set our pace for life. And if we don't set a pace for our life, we'll just end up crashing over and over and over again. The Sabbath is what will help us run the race. Because friends, remember, it's all about the long haul.